And welcome to The Bottom Line, where we unpack some of the main business and economic stories of the day. At the end of last year, it presented forecasts of solid economic growth for Poland in 2025. But the country faces a predicament that doesn't seem to be going away: the issue of deteriorating exports. Obviously, economic growth doesn't depend solely on exports, but the situation that Poland is facing might impact the GDP growth more than economists and analysts originally thought. Economist Ignacy Morawski from Polish business daily Puls Biznesu is here to tell us more about what is behind the escalating problem. Hello, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Hello, good afternoon.
So to begin with, we have this figure of 4.7% deterioration in exports since November and more pessimistic projections on the horizon. Is this a statistical fluke, or is this a sign of a bigger, more worrying trend?
Well, first of all, we have to remember that part of the decline in exports is due to falling prices, not real contraction. Right, so we have a deflation in the manufacturing sector. If we include that factor, then we arrive at a decline at about 1%. So it is visible, but it is not a collapse. However, what is important here is that the negative dynamics of exports has been maintained for almost a year. So clearly, Polish export sector, which was a driver, which had been a driver of growth for the last 15 or 20 years, now is struggling to maintain the pace of growth due to the low dynamics of European economy, especially due to stagnation in German economy. And if we look at what German economists are saying about their economy, their country, we can see that there is widespread pessimism over there. Recently, the German central bank has cut the forecasts for GDP this year. So now the German central bank expects the German economy to grow only 0.2% this year, which means effectively stagnation. So I don't see currently good perspectives for Polish exporters. I think that this year, especially the first half, will be challenging.
So essentially, we are looking at a total figure of any sort of improvement in 2024 than 2023, because essentially we need to move away from this idea of the German economy recovering in any way, and essentially. Do we need to look at Poland re-strategizing and moving away from its engine of export growth?
Exactly. That's how I think companies should look at the problem. So they should try to find new markets, and especially what is strategically important for Polish producers is that they should move away from a system in which they are dependent on German intermediaries. So very often a Polish company expands on the global markets, not directly contacting direct clients in destination markets, but through trading partners from Germany or other European large countries. Now, this dependency model severely, I would say, diminishes the growth potential of Polish companies, because when German economy is struggling, the German intermediaries will not help our companies to look for other clients. So we would like to see more exports growth to other countries beyond Europe. And we can see that actually, we can observe that. When you look at the dynamics of exports, we can see that the growth, especially to America, is quite high. The exports growth to Canada recently was double-digit, to Brazil, double-digit growth, to United States, still positive growth. So on certain destinations, we can see positive trends. However, the problem is that the share of Polish exports, which goes to America, is quite low. In general, only at around 12%, between 12 and 13% of Polish exports is directed beyond Europe. And I mean not only European Union, but Europe in general, only around 13%. This share is gradually increasing, and this is positive. However,
by the sounds of it,
the level is still low.
But by the sounds of it, it sounds like it is possible with efforts and with determination. It sounds like it is possible to move away from that dependence on Germany.
Well, it is possible. It is possible, and but I think it depends both on the effort of Polish business, and I mean Polish-owned businesses, and it depends also on public policy. What the government should do is to support Polish companies to expand abroad, to find business partners, and many public institutions are doing a good job in this area, especially the public insurance company KUKE. Which is actually sort of a trade insurance company, right? It helps Polish companies to insure foreign contracts. It has done a very good job in recent years in fostering exports and investment growth. But I think we need a more active strategy to identify sectors where we can grow. For example, recently, the World Bank published a very interesting report in which it identified Polish producers and Polish sectors which can grow in the green tech value chains, right? So in value chains around green technologies. Now our exports in these areas is around $2 billion, or around around $4 billion. According to the World Bank, we can increase over the next couple of years the export level to around $18 billion. So the growth potential is immense, but we need to have more proactive industrial policy, the policy aimed at helping companies to identify new export potential, to find new partners, to understand global value chains. Then we will be able to sort of diminish the dependency on German economy. I don't mean that we should cut off from Germany. It's impossible and it wouldn't be optimal. But Germany is in the long stagnation. Even if it recovers this year, the growth will be low, and generally the economy goes through structural shifts.
Sure.
Right, so we need to look for other destinations.
Yes, speaking of other destinations, we have the Vietnamese Prime Minister in Warsaw today, and I wanted to ask your opinion of that trade relationship between Poland and Vietnam. Does it serve potential for Poland? What is your assessment of the potential for Polish companies to actually set up shop in Vietnam? That trade relationship in general, what is your opinion?
This is exactly the direction that we should aim for, right? So look for partners beyond Europe, partners that will allow us to diversify exports. What is why exporting is positive for companies? Why companies export? Well, one reason is that they expand markets, obviously, the effects of scale. But another reason is that they diversify risks. If a company sails to many markets, to diversified markets, then the recession in one place will not cause the company to get into financial troubles. So diversification is extremely important. And nowadays, when we see that there is a huge divergence between economic sentiment and conditions in Europe and in other places in the world, it's important to think more about global expansion, about some global strategy for Polish business. And there are companies which invest in Asia. Many Polish companies in medical sector, in manufacturing sector, invest in Asia. So we have to learn from them, learn from good experience, from good case studies, and build upon to strengthen the global presence of Polish business.
Of course, obviously it makes sense to move out into the world, but there is that margin. So we talk about finding other export markets, but we have to go to places that will allow Poland to be profitable. So there has to be that balance.
Yeah, well, obviously, the exports make sense only when it is profitable. That's why it makes sense for a company to expand abroad only if it has a strong position in the local market. It doesn't make sense for a company which is growing and is still small locally at the country level to expand abroad, to expand to different continents, right? Obviously there are, levels of development of companies, but still I think we have a lot of mid-sized Polish producers which have strong position in Poland, they have strong position in Europe, and they have potential to sell to other continents. So this is the moment that we should try to do it. This is exactly, it should be a trigger. The German stagnation and German crisis should be a trigger for Polish business, for Polish government to build a global strategy, the strategy that does not make us dependent on one partner.
And just very briefly, you say trigger. There's more talk of Ukraine's post-war recovery. Is this where Poland should be looking as a strategic export partner and move away from Germany precisely?
Well, we should support Ukraine in many ways, also by engaging in reconstruction. But I don't think that the size of the Ukraine economy is enough to build some grand positive strategies on that. First, Ukraine is still at war, and it doesn't seem that any huge reconstruction
it might be coming to an end. I mean, I'm working on that assumption.
Hopefully. So yes, I'm positive about Ukraine. We should engage. We should do more.
But with caution.
From what I know, we can still do more in terms of public policy, in terms of helping Polish companies than we are doing at this moment. I think French government or German or UK governments are doing more than we do. But when I say about global strategy, I mean many new directions globally, not shifting attention from Germany to Ukraine. This would not be a global strategy.
Sure. Okay.
It is, Ukraine is only an element. An element is in a bigger picture.
Okay, we're going to have to end our conversation there. Thank you ever so much for joining us again.
Thank you very much.
And we were joined by Ignacy Morawski of Puls Biznesu. Thanks so much for joining us today. I was your host, Marie Cato. Join us every weekday for Business Arena at 5 p.m. CET on TVP World. And for the latest in regional business, follow us on X and on tvpworld.com. And for more news and features, stay with us on TVP World. Goodbye.